Hello there. Welcome to the full moon in Capricorn. And everybody is hyping it up to be the end of the chapter, a closure of an era and stuff like that. Well, let's take a look. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Usually a moon is not going to be marking a closure of an era. Usually a closure of an era is going to be something more like we saw back in the winter with Pluto shifting signs to Pluto in Aquarius, or once Uranus switches sign from Taurus to Gemini next year. Then we're going to see major era changes. But on some personal way, 2 Capricorn full moons in a row. It's calling attention to something in your life twice in a row. July 21st, June 21st, full Capricorn moon twice. Yeah, it's possible. It's asking for some personal closure because it's accentuating this particular energy twice. Different degree, but it's still saying, okay, twice now we're telling you, please focus on whatever Capricorn moon is highlighting in your chart. So we can take a look at that. Also, because I did an earlier video about Mars-Uranus conjunct and Algol, this malefic fixed star that can bring difficulties, which happened, pretty much a day before, a day, the exact aspect a day after this assassination attempt and the ensuing dramatics that are following it. So it's an important aspect, as I said before in my video and on my reels. So I am going to make that our question for the signs, because people wrote to me and wanted to know, how does Mars conjunct Uranus Algol affect your chart per sign? So we're going to talk about that because it's still active right now. It's maybe not as intense as July 15th, the Monday, but it's all heading towards this accumulative effect on the full moon. And of course, we're going to do some tarot as well. Now, I just wanted to say, because there's been a bit of confusion since I made an announcement that I am no longer doing mediumship. Now, mediumship means I am no longer going to do sessions where I connect to the people who have passed away, the dead or deceased, unless they spontaneously show up during one of my channeled readings, which happens. But I'm not going to put myself in a position to summon the dead, as people ask very often in sessions. Maybe rare exceptions, if somebody really pulls my heartstrings and I feel it strongly, or if it's a pet, perhaps. But in general, mediumship means speaking to the deceased or to sometimes spirit guides, but I am still doing channeled readings, tarot readings, astrology readings, and coaching and Reiki. I'm still doing all of that, just to be clear. So the other thing is, I hope you would like to join my Facebook group. It's the Intuition Cafe. It's more important than ever, folks, to trust your gut when we are fed more and more and more confusing things to consume in the media, more and more polarizing events and confusing conversations and conflict because of this major gaslighting, in my opinion, that's going on in society on all sides. It is more important than ever that you try to tap into your own gut feeling, your own intuition, and trust it. So that's why I have the Intuition Cafe, for you to meet other people who are trying that and to help just ask little probing questions here and there for you to practice it. Sometimes, yes, I post like a political thing, but it's not about politics. I'll just do it once in a while. If something is breaking news, maybe I will ask people, what's your gut feeling about it when you first saw the story, before it gets into all the spin. But it's generally not a political thing. It's just to practice. And it's crucial that you trust yourself during confusing times like this. And I think it's just going to get more confusing for a while. So it's really important. All right, let's get to this chart now. There. All right. So as we can see, it's interesting that the full moon, there's the sun, there's Venus, sort of saddling the ascendant. And the full moon is conjunct Pluto. Well, that's potent. That's very potent. And it's also right near the descendant. So yes, because this sun and moon, full moon, is happening on the near Pluto and the axis of the AC and DC, and therefore, yeah, not quite squaring the MC and IC, but usually when planets are hitting or conjunct one of these major cross aspects here, usually that's when events take place. Decisions happen, events happen, things that actually move us forward, not just thinking about it, 30,000 times. Now, the moon and Pluto conjunct is significant. So the first Capricorn full moon we had in June was at an earlier degree. Now, this is actually showing 0 degrees Aquarius for Pluto and 2908 for the moon. So it's extremely close. It's like a minute apart. Yeah. Wow. Less than a minute apart. So very, very potent energy for change. But at the same time, what happens with Pluto is it can bust things apart, right? Pluto can sort of destroy something and then reinvent it. Like, think of somebody that just pulls the tablecloth, all the dishes go flying, table is clear now, things broke. It's like a sudden clearing of the deck. Or sometimes Pluto can bring like power tripping and resistance. And in that case, with Capricorn, it could bring like a countermeasure to change. So you'll see like extreme forces of change and extreme resistance to it, which of course makes sense with what's going on politically as well. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a little fresh air in here. Well, the sun's going to be in my eyes, but now I look like I'm in a tent. Okay. I just want some fresh air, but I want some daylight. There, it's a bit better. Okay. No, it looks terrible. My vanity moment. No, I just want the video to look decent if I'm talking to you, so you can see my face. All right, no sun in the face. So so what's going to happen with we have to look at the aspects to see what is actually going to be activated, how much actually changes. Now, of course, it's opposite the sun in Cancer. Pluto opposite the sun can certainly be opposition to, your sense of identity and authority. Pluto with the moon is usually to do with power trips and difficulties, manipulation regarding emotions, or sometimes women. When I see a man who has the moon and Pluto aspected in his chart, I know he has difficulty with women. He could in one case he could be very submissive and always around dominant women. In another case, he might try to be the dominator. He could be a player or a user. because there's a lot of difficulty when Pluto and the moon come together to be gentle, to be soft, to be receptive, to be nurturing. The moon needs to be nurtured, and the moon in Capricorn is not a nurturing moon. It's a colder moon. It's a controlling moon. People that are born with the moon in Capricorn often had sort of a cooler, less nurturing, less emotionally available parent. They had to grow up early. Often they're very serious. They're, they can be little adults before their time because a lot of the time their needs weren't met, and maybe they didn't even expect to have their needs met. Or they rely on pure ambition or logic or something to replace it. So Pluto and the moon and Capricorn, Aquarius together is pretty harsh when it comes to not having a lot of mercy, let's just say. Not having a lot of care or sensitivity or mercy for others. I don't like saying that, but that's what it is. Now it's opposite the sun in Cancer, which is all about parenting and nurturing and listening and feeling things. So they're opposing each other. So, I mean, sometimes that could set you up for arguments where it's like there's somebody who's, vulnerable and raw, and they're just laying it all out there, and their heart is open, and they just want things to get better or heal, and they're met with an iron fist, or they're met with somebody that says, oh good, now I can manipulate this person more because they're showing their vulnerability. That's one way. Because of Pluto, it's one way it could show up. I suppose a positive way we could look at it when it comes to personal growth is if there has been anywhere in your life where you feel that your needs emotionally have not been listened to or heard, if you don't feel safe or nurtured or cared about, or that people care how you feel, then you might be also at a point where you are ready to just release that relationship. Pluto and the moon could be like the scissors. It's not a nice image, but that's what it is. It's like a dominating, powering, cutting kind of feeling. And like we said, in the positive, if you're ready to move on and let go of some old pattern where you constantly feel emotionally neglected, this could be your moment. That is certainly a closure if you've been working on certain patterns. So let's just see what else it aspects to see how it plays out. The first obvious thing then is the square to Chiron. That's to both. Chiron, of course, is the wounded healer in Aries. It's the wound of self, not having a sense of yourself strongly enough. That leads you into scenarios where you're around maybe narcissists or people that are just self-absorbed, not knowing what you want, not knowing who you are, so you can't ask for what you need. Moon. If someone says, well, what do you want? Well, I don't know. How are you going to get your needs met if you don't know what you want? Because you can't ask. And then you'll usually take what's served. So Chiron wounding these things about, nurturing and needs and power tripping over it. That's the harshest part of this chart, okay? Is there's a feeling of asking for what you need and being denied. And so if that happens to you, it is very likely you could come to sort of closure moment and make a decision. And you know what? It might be painful, but it might be really long overdue. So otherwise, if we look at that on a broader scale, well, I'm sure we're going to see aspects of this in global events where needs are asked for, presented, and they are manipulated or denied. For example, some sort of natural disaster, asking for relief funds, and it's like, oh yeah, but no, it's not coming. Stuff like that. That's the nasty side. How do we heal that is, well, you have to You have to get in touch with your own needs, and you have to ask, and you have to make sure you're meeting your needs, not in a selfish way, in a healthy way, so that you are not manipulated or dominated, so that you can discern who and what situations meet your needs and fit with you best and which don't, so you can be more free and more honest to move throughout your relationships or your jobs or whatever this applies to. Now, Chiron is at the top of the chart, which is usually the midheaven. It's the career and it's the public eye. So, you know, again, some of this will play out in the public eye, some sort of, let's say, not very kind, merciless, insensitive moments not being shown, and probably because Chiron is on the midheaven, exposed. In our personal lives, well, no one's exposed on the news, but you might see that there's people that, you know, just trust that certain people who might have mistreated you might be exposed in different ways. You may never see it, and don't try to enact it on your own, like revenge, because that's no good. But life has a way of doing that. Because Chiron is right on the MC, there's like, the wound is being shown to the world on some level. Next, what we have is all these blue lines, so all the helpful lines. So we've got Pluto Moon, trine that Uranus Algol. That's sort of scary, folks. I have to say that to me, that feels like a bit of a scary aspect, because if you have an energy of like cutting off your emotions, I don't feel anything. I just act. I act on my power. I will just deny, cut, suppress. And then you've got Mars and Uranus and Algol there, helping it out. My goodness. If any of you decide to walk away from anything or anyone right now, it's permanent. It's dramatic. It's not, there's no going back usually after that kind of dramatic ending, or very, even if it's not outwardly dramatic, like with your words, it might be inwardly dramatic, like you are just done with something or someone. You know, if we see this play out in the public eye, well, again, something feels that whatever is denied, suppressed, unfortunately, it has a bit of like a manipulative or abusive energy to it. It will, unfortunately, looks like it will succeed. So that's the scary part right now, is like something is being almost like allowed to destroy something. And I'm not here to doom and gloom. I don't think the whole, you know, it's not like the whole world going to hell in a handbasket, but it's just this little window of this full moon of this week with this aspect. It gives you this feeling like a crack is opened, and what is coming through it, and it's being sort of, come on in, you know. And what comes in is very powerful and a bit dark. And what we need to do in our own lives, and what if we could possibly do it on a political stage or global stage, is we have to not allow it, or we have to remedy it instead of, yeah, I'll take that, and act on it. Like, it's, yeah, that's the feeling I get, is like a bit of evil unleashed, a little bit of, and as I said before in this other video, times of chaos where something is let through the door or allowed to go on, a lot of nasty things can happen. A lot of things can happen behind the scenes that we don't want, but at the same time, it allows us to do things behind the scenes and leapfrog. It's all how you use it. I'm much more, I never really define my spiritual beliefs because I'm sort of eclectic, but I would say on this, I much more agree with probably the Tao than anything else in my life. And there's no good or bad. There's no good or bad. There's just what is and what is, what are its possibilities? What are its usefulness? There's no good or bad. So there's an energy stream that's opened with a lot of control, a lot of anger, a lot of emotional power, a lot of sort of vehemence, and it's been let into the room. So how are you going to deal with that? That's why I think a lot of astrologers must be saying there's a closure point. If you spot said energy and you're like, nope, I am done with that, not doing that in my life anymore, and you decide to close the door on it. And that can even be internal, like stop beating yourself up, bullying yourself about something. Stop telling negative stories about your life to yourself or whatever, that could be another way it plays out, is internally. I think we get it. So let's move on. What else is happening? We've got Mercury squaring that Mars, Uranus, Algol. So Mercury is in Leo, right near Regulus, that fixed star that talks about an assassination of a king who gets too high and mighty and sort of doesn't realize his ego and falls from grace. So Mars, Uranus, Algol is going against that. And that does not bode well for people who are trying to, let's say, if there's a narcissist around in your life, or just a very self-centered, grandstandy type of person, even if we're not talking about NPD, we're talking about narcissistic traits. If somebody's being very aggrandizing and better than you, holier than thou, and they think they're going to get away with it, I don't think they will under this influence. No matter how much they talk with Mercury there in Leo, they're going to talk and talk and talk. But there's a lot of challenge to just allowing that to go through. So that's interesting. So we got to guard that, make sure that you're not overconfident and saying things that could get you in trouble or that you're going to regret or that make things worse. Make sure if you do have one of these closure moments or endings, that the way you say it, try to say it in a more graceful way. Or just silently bow out is another way to do it. Because Regulus and Mercury squaring Mars, Algol, Uranus, oh no, this will not be pretty if you try to keep insisting and asserting yourself and justifying yourself. And the more you talk and don't, even if you're right, the less it's going to be well received with these planets. Venus is also in Leo here on the rising sign, so pretty close to Cancer. That's sort of nice in a way. Gives a little bit of relief. Venus is trine Neptune, even though Neptune is in Pisces, but it's right at the last degree. It's close to Aries. And Venus is also trine the North Node. So Venus in Leo is a different energy than this Mercury Regulus, okay? Mercury Regulus would be like a big blowhard. Well, we know the obvious one, who I don't like. I'm the best, it was the biggest. No. Nobody wants to hear that. Venus in Leo, on the other hand, is going to be more like a cheerleader, more motivating of others, more leadership qualities. Yeah, maybe a little bit loud and funny, entertaining. Still wants attention, but isn't doing it in this pompous kind of way. Doing it more in a sincere way. So if you're out there having fun and you don't have a thought in your head about power tripping anybody or dominating or being right or any of that stuff, you're just expressing if you know truly, you're just expressing yourself, and your heart is focused on other people as well as yourself, versus like me, well, then you're going to find some flow with that. But it has to be like fun, high energy that includes others, not just you. Right? So no diva energy here. That's not going to go well right now. And so yeah, the sun, the same thing. It's also trine Neptune and trine the North Node. So those Cancer qualities, this is an exact trine. Look, 29 and 29. It's perfect. That trine's very strong then. So Neptune in Pisces, Sun in Cancer. Often, when there's moments where people are being really aggressive or dramatic, or they can't stop talking over people, or they're competing all the time, or they need to manipulate or dominate, or they're Cancer and Neptune don't want anything to do with that. They don't want anything to do with that vibe. They're like, I'm going to go back in my shell. I'm going to just stay in my room. Thanks. I don't want any part of that negativity. Nobody's listening to anybody. Nobody cares how anyone feels. I'm out of here. So for some of you that align with that watery energy there, and even the sun is in the 12th house, you might feel like you would just like to lay low a bit. Maybe you need some time to yourself. Maybe you need a good long walk alone. Maybe you want to just stay home a little bit. I mean, these planets this week, I found people were just extra crazy driving, extra impatient and risky on the road. And I think some of that is these Mars-Uranus aspect. It makes people want speed, makes people very restless and impatient. Cancer doesn't like that. Neptune doesn't like that. So if you just feel the need to make your life a little more peaceful and bow out of some things, if you don't like that energy and you find things are hostile or cold, then you just bow out. You're being wise, actually. There's a lot of power tripping in the air. Now we've got Saturn and Jupiter to talk about over here as well. Jupiter's making a little sextile to Venus. So, they just help each other out a bit. Jupiter and Gemini is like constant talking as well, like just constant. Super social. It's in the 11th house, so communities and friends. This could be a super social full moon if you want it. But like we said, there's plenty of room for mishaps and misunderstandings if people are not, if they're competitive and restless and impatient with each other, or trying to power trip or gaslight each other in any kind of way. But Jupiter and Gemini could be very social. And it's also about multitasking and doing, 5 things at once. So if you feel like the energy of laying low is more for you, maybe you're going to just get really busy on your projects. Maybe you're going to read, you're going to catch up on 5 things. You're going to do your hobbies, and you can do this alone, the Jupiter and Gemini. You can be multitasking and still have it more peaceful with just yourself or one other person or your intimate family, whatever. But if you go out there in public, this is awfully close to Jupiter. Isn't quite conjunct Mars, but it is pretty close to all of this. I mean, Mars is officially in Gemini now. So again, another like dualistic. Mars and Gemini can be 1 minute super social, next minute just disappears. Can be very, very talkative as well, very clever. Commits to like 5 things, can't make up its mind half the time. not very reliable terribly, Mars and Gemini. Sometimes the Mars and Gemini can be the two-facedness that people talk about with the sign. Not the whole sign is two-faced, but Mars particularly could be, because the way you're interacting with people, the way you're expressing yourself is like hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. So now people don't know where they stand with you. And if they're still sticking around you, well, they either love you and accept you fully, or they're completely confused and they're putting up with crap sometimes, because you're like a weather vane. They don't know whether you're coming or going, or you can't make plans, you can't commit to stuff. So that's not so great as an energy also when it's working together with Pluto and the moon. Like, I don't want to, I hate sounding like, you know, oh, warnings, you know, I'm reading the chart. If you've watched me on my channel for the last, I don't know, 2 years, I've been doing this. Not every reading is doom and gloom and warnings and stuff. And this is an energy, like the moon is going to pass, and these activating aspects won't be as strong. They'll still be there, because Pluto with Mars and Uranus is in the skies. It's slow moving. Mars will move away from that aspect fairly soon, but Pluto is still going to be squaring Uranus for a long time, for, you know, months, possibly longer. I have to check my charts. So, but right now it's like intensifying something. And I do think it's a time of like being careful to pick your battles, and you know, really just my personal philosophy has changed a lot over the years. And now, maybe because I'm getting older, I just had my birthday on the 17th. I believe in walking the path of peace, and peace means to lay down your swords. That if you're constantly battling certain things, certain people, it takes a toll on your mental health to constantly disagree and be working on it over the years. If you've tried and you've given something your best and people are still misunderstanding, or you still don't feel understood or seen, well, you've got to get out. You've got to remove yourself. And so to me, the Neptune and the Sun in the water signs, accented also by the North Node in Aries, it's sort of supporting, like, withdraw a bit, take care of yourself. Aries North Node will think about where you're going next, like you alone. Where do you want to go next? What do you want to do? What do you need? And give yourself some space and some affirmation to do that, because as you do that, you're going to affirm yourself, and you will not be in such a position to be gaslit, manipulated, whatever, tossed aside, not heard, all of those things. So I find the best aspect of this particular full moon would be to pull back and reflect on what you truly want and need, and where you are going, not, oh my God, all the chaos around you. Now, Saturn's still in Pisces here, 19 degrees. It's squaring off with Jupiter. So very conflictual again. Jupiter in Gemini just wants to, like I said, be invited to 4 parties and have 3 projects on the go and a hobby on the side, and chats with everybody down the block on their way to everywhere they're going. And oops, I said we would do that, sorry. Oh, right, I'm late. Well, I overscheduled myself. Oh, I didn't mean to give you that impression that I was flirting. I am just like being really friendly right now. Saturn in Pisces is like getting real serious about people's suffering in the world, taking to heart that someone next to you is going through a difficult time, being sensitive to the subtle things in your emotional world or somebody close to you, and doing your best to show some sense of compassion and understand that everybody on some level believes they are suffering, and they are suffering on some level. Everyone, no matter how rich, poor, healthy, not healthy, That's again a Buddhist thing, not a Taoist thing, but a Buddhist thing. Is suffering is universal. We all have suffering, and therefore, if you stop trying to escape this cycle of suffering, you don't bring it onto yourself, but you stop trying to crave to not suffer. And you accept that there is suffering in life sometimes, and for everybody, and it'll come and go. Then that humanizes you and brings you together with everybody, because we all have something. That's Saturn in Pisces. Now, do you see how different that is than, oh, I got 5 parties and 4 books I'm reading, and oh, so sorry, so and so, you know. One's very serious and dour, the other one is like lively and extroverted. So that is also conflicting. That will affect the social life side as well. And Saturn really isn't supporting or conflicting with anything else except Jupiter. It's going to be I think it's going to be a very lively and eventful few days over this full moon. I'm sure we're going to hear lots of stories. I don't feel anything dire or terrible, but lots of gossipy, because Jupiter and Gemini loves gossip and stories. Just a very, oh my God, did you hear about this happened? Oh my Lord, this thing to this person. Oh my Lord, they said, and they said what? And you know, that's this kind of whirlwind. Yeah, that's what I feel. All right, let's take a look at the tarot. So there we go. Let's take a look and see 3 cards. If something can help give us more details, what can we expect in the energy of this full moon? All right, the first card is the 10 of Wands. Well, that also bodes well for what we were saying with Pluto and the moon and all those oppositional planets. 10 of Wands is like Saturn. You feel completely oppressed. It says oppression. Something that has been going on so long you should have left. Do you know what I mean? Situations that have come to such a max and you're still doing it. We all do this in life. We all do it. So can you be honest about something that you have been saying you will change, you will do, you don't accept, you don't want? What are you routinely looping around that now has gotten just so to the max you just want to give up? You just can't anymore. Sometimes this card will force you to stop doing something. I mean, it's not a nice looking card. Saturn in Sagittarius, it takes away your freedom. Somewhere along there, you lost your sense of freedom about something, your sense of adventure, your sense of exploring the world, accepting other differences of people. Something got very stuck and oppressed. And so if you can recognize that in yourself, wherever you feel most stuck, it is time. You must do something different. Second card is the Prince of Swords. So yeah, well, this would be a very, let's say the bad side of Mars and Gemini, Jupiter, Gemini. This would be a very clever, charming, scatterbrain guy who just can't make up his mind, can't commit to anything, can't stop talking, gives like multiple impressions of one thing, might even be like a scammer. Certainly you don't want to date this guy. He has mental, his mind is not organized, which could mean anything from a temporary thing that he's going through to a deep anxiety problem or a deep mental health problem. Look at him, he's all bent out of shape, and his sword is like behind his head. It's like he's trying to scratch his ear with his elbow with a sword in his hand. He's all crooked on his chariot. He's not going anywhere. you know, but he can talk a good game. So I don't know if this archetype, this person, is at all related to this. Maybe there's someone around you like this, and it is definitely time to detach and put some emotional boundaries with this person. Oi. Okay. And we've got the Ace of Wands, which means you will. You will. This is the birth of the will, the birth of action, desire. This is a very Aries North Node kind of card. The burst of fire is like this burst of, I can't do it anymore. I'm worth more than this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to say it. I'm going to act. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go on that trip. I'm going to do what I want. That intense passion for you to do something you want or to act. And maybe it's related to scatterbrain oppression person. Just, you might say, I'm done, bye. Or I want better, bye. That could be a boss, you know, could be a terrible customer you've got all the time you're dealing with, could be a neighbor, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. Whatever it is, but this is very good news that you will act on it. So let's take a look at the signs and how Mars, Uranus, Algol is affecting you. Because it's part of this full moon. It's even more intense because the full moon is squaring off with it. The full moon is trining and adding to it, okay? So let's take a look at what this means for your sign. I will pull a card, but a lot of this is going to be astrology based. Okay. So Aries, Mars, Uranus, Algol falls in your second house, which is money. Money and possessions, what you value, how much you pay for things, what you think is worth it. You have the Eight of Discs, which is prudence. So very likely it's time for you to crack down and be very careful with your money. Either it's time to invest and let it grow slowly, not get rich quick schemes. Nothing quick about this card. It could also be time for you to make a budget, for you to stop spending the way you are and crack down on yourself so that you can clean things up and grow. Because Mars Uranus in your second house is like, woo, credit card, ka-ching. And an Aries that is not keeping itself in check with money could easily become that, right? If you're honest. Shopping. Oh, or maybe you're going to want even bigger things than that. Oh, I can afford it. I'll catch up later. I'll just buy X, Y, or Z. No, don't. I have to turn my fan on. It's really hot. So yeah, Aries, time to crack down on yourself, make a budget, and spread out your funds a little bit differently. Think about the long term, not the immediate gratification. Taurus. So for you, it's happening in your first house, which is your identity, your sense of yourself, your physical body, how you come across to the world. It's a big one. It's rattling your cage. Yeah. Oh, and you've got the happiness card, though. That is very nice. Mars Uranus on the sun, I would expect. Like with a strong will, you can get an awful lot of things accomplished under that because Mars and Uranus could give you like a lightning bolt under your butt. So if you have a lot of tasks or things you're trying to clear, accomplish, finish, looks like you probably will with the happiness card. Now, the other thing about that, though, is it could bring, I want you to be careful of accidents when it comes to Mars Uranus. Be careful on the road. Don't speed. Don't Don't get up on a ladder if you don't feel good. Do you know what I mean? Don't try to like use power tools without, I don't know, whatever you're thinking. Oh no, I can do it. I know how to do this. Be careful. Just be careful, because Mars Uranus is an aspect of accidents. Also, for some reason, I'm getting a feeling of jealousy around you, Taurus. So, you know, with the happiness card, if you feel like you're happier and productive right now, or things are going well, you know, it's going to be people around that might be jealous. It's not going to last forever, this influence, but there's somebody jealous around you right now. Gemini, Mars Uranus Algol for you is in your 12th house. So that is the unconscious side of life. That's not an easy thing. It's going to give you dreams. It's going to make you feel restless. It might give you nightmares sometimes. It might mean that you're grinding your teeth at night, you know, because there's a lot of restlessness and anger that could be coming up. It might be subconscious, and if it is, it's going to come out as, like, you know, aches and pains, headaches, joint, like I said, grinding your teeth, restless legs, stuff like that. Could be coming out as nightmares. So the thing for you that you need to do is to acknowledge your anger, acknowledge what's been frustrating you or making you angry for a long time. And if you're restless, you need to do something about it. I mean, you can use exercise or whatever, but again, go easy, because this aspect can bring accidents to everyone, not just to Taurus. And your card is the Prince of Cups, so that's interesting. Well, I mean, it could be related to somebody like this that you're angry at or restless for or whatever. But usually the King of Cups is a nice guy. Usually a very nurturing, sensitive, creative guy, very giving and loving. Perhaps this is a side of you that you are blocking or you don't feel you can safely let out anymore, but it's still in there. Perhaps this is somebody you need in your life to help you through. It could be a good friend, could be a counselor, could be yeah, even a great book might give you a little comfort during this time. Cancers. So Mars Uranus Algol is going through your 11th house. And that means your friendships and your community. So again, what did we say? Like, there can be a lot of gossip, a lot of talking, a lot of socializing. There could be events that happen that seem random or sudden in your community or amongst your friend group. You might, you know, because Pluto and the moon are trining that, you might feel like you've had enough of, maybe you're switching groups. Maybe you've had enough of certain groups and friends or dynamics. Maybe, you know, maybe you feel the need to break away and you don't need to fit in with everything or everyone. It's a possibility. Or maybe you need some more weirdo, freaky friends, because Mars Uranus would be people that could be quite eccentric. They might just do strange or rebellious things. Maybe that's your tribe. Maybe. And your card is the Princess of Discs. So this tells me that you need to probably get out in nature a little more, look at the woods. And she's looking down, but there's so much light as she's looking down, and she almost looks pregnant. And she's glowing her wand at the ground. So this is a need to, like, look at all the branches around her. It's almost like she's surrounded by all these people, represented by all these trees and branches. And it's like they're almost trying to reach around her and for her. And she just needs some space and solitude to get her clarity. I would say there's people sort of wanting too much from you, wanting a piece of you all the time. And you might not be able to get away from that. Depends on, you know, how often you're in groups that you can't avoid, or in your town or whatever. But you can have control over having people have less access to you somehow if you're feeling overwhelmed and you need some time alone. And with that Sun trine Neptune, it looks like that's what you would like right now. It's a little time alone, little peace. But yeah, in terms of like finding your tribe and Mars Uranus, Algol, just feels like you need to stay away from a bit of the gossip in your community. And yeah, got to be careful of your words, just like other people need to be careful of theirs. All right, Leos. Mars Uranus Algol would be squaring you depending on your birthday. And it is in your 10th house, so it's your career. So there's a lot going on in your career house. And that could be sudden turns of events with your job. You know, Mars Uranus could bring like firing you, you quitting, or promotion. It's a surprise. With Algol there, it feels like, well, there might be something behind that. You know, doesn't feel so innocent. So even if you are promoted, I would ask myself, and what are they getting out of this exactly if I'm promoted to that position? You know, what is everyone else getting out of it is a good question. And yeah, we'll pull your card now. Okay, you've got the King of Swords. So you've got someone around you who's dominant, you know, intellectually, and just has the power or the money or the say to do what they want. And so, you know, once they've decided, if they like you and they keep you and they want to promote you, that's it, that's all. If they don't, they don't. And it's it feels like you might have some sort of offer on the table, whether that's you can retire early, you can take this position in this city, or you can switch to that department, or we're going to promote you to this. It might be on your table and you feel like you don't have a choice, but of course you always do have a choice. Sometimes it doesn't feel like you have a choice though. But if you really don't have a choice, then you do it with stipulations. You can say, yes, but these are my conditions, these are my terms, or negotiate that. Because I get a feeling of you being sort of pushed towards something you didn't ask. You don't really have full say in the matter. And that's in your career or the public eye. All right. Virgos, Mars Uranus Algol is then in your 9th house, which talks about traveling, foreign lands, studying, ethics, philosophy. It's sort of a nice place to have it. Mars Uranus could bring you a sudden trip, sudden opportunity to meet people who are very different, sudden awakenings in your philosophy of life. It could be a great time to be reading or studying or listening to stuff that's educational or that challenges the way you see the world. Yeah, and your card is the Prince of Wands. And so there's like a boom of confidence, I feel, in you. You seem a little more ready to just show the world who you are, and maybe a little more assertive with what you think and expressing yourself. There's lots of confidence going forward for you. But yeah, I mean, and this whole sudden awakening of like seeing the world. I mean, now sometimes that is exciting, and at the same time, sometimes that can be really disconcerting or scary if you open up to stuff that, you know, might not be very savory about people or the way things are. Like if you've never thought about corruption in your life, We have. But let's say you'd never thought about corruption. And then suddenly, yes, your mind is awakening and you're learning, but now you have to face that there's corruption that you didn't know was existing. So you might find as you study or open your mind or awaken to whatever this new knowledge or philosophy is, it might give you a little bit of a twist or a dark, like a shadow side that you didn't see before, which is all part of birthing a new self, towards enlightenment. Seeing all, good, bad, and ugly, and accepting and still finding love. It's not easy. But I like that there's more confidence in you. All right, Libras, for you, Mars, Uranus, Algol is in your 8th house, and that is other people's money. Sex, death, and other people's money. So for you, this is going to bring up some sort of taboo, something that people confide in you that is very taboo or private. Your own issues with money or sexuality could come up to the forefront. For me, like Mars, Uranus in the 8th house, I would expect something sudden with, could be inheritances or investments in one direction or another. You might, if it's in the realm of your sexuality, you might be suddenly really experimental and open to something, or somebody wants you to that you've just never done. You might just go. Or maybe you won't. Maybe it's you instigating, but that's the vibe of it. And then sometimes with the 8th house, the really deep psychological issues that have been suppressed come up with Uranus, like flashback to something. And in that case, that leads to the psychological analysis side of that house, which is usually ruled by Scorpio. It's the deep dive into the truth. What's the truth? So I think Libra, and I know you're going to hate me for that because you hate this, but something is waking and shaking you quite a bit during this full moon. And especially since Capricorn is also not helping, and Cancer, it's all activated. It's not going to help with, you can't just whitewash and keep that one peaceful. Now, the card that comes up for it is the work card, though, so that's interesting. Some of you might throw yourself into your work and be super productive and try to avoid how you feel, avoid what's coming up. Keeping yourself busy is a strategy to avoid. Otherwise, whatever this is that comes to light will require you to apply yourself and work towards, understanding it, resolving it. Yeah, I know you hate me saying that stuff, Libra. Why can't she just tell me I can just coast right now and everyone's going to get along? No, unfortunately not. All right. Scorpio. It's going to not be easy with Scorpio and Taurus opposing planets and Mars, Uranus, and Algol. I hate to say it, Scorpio, but it's not going to be the easiest time relationship-wise for you. It's the house of marriage and open enemies. Mars, Uranus could bring something, suddenly bring in somebody. If you're single, could also bring in sudden temptation, even if you're not single. It could bring somebody into your life who is very charismatic and dynamic and unpredictable and, mind-blowing. Yes, it could do that. It could. It could also bring a lot of drama. Could bring, again, some jealousy, betrayal, possessiveness. So it's going to challenge all of you who have commitments. There's some sort of test by way of those issues. And it seems to me like it's affecting your partnership or couple, but it's not coming from that. It feels like an external thing. And the card that you have here is the Eon, or the Judgment card, which means coming out and making a clear choice. You stand before God in this card, but instead of God judging me, I declare who I am. So that's a really deep reading for you, Scorpio. So in order to get out of whatever this drama might be with relationships, you will need to get super crystal clear on who you are and say to that person or yourself or your partner or anyone who seems to be in and around or meddling or threatening, this is what I want and this is who I am, and that's what it is, and that's not going to change. That level of centeredness avoids the drama. Not easy. Sagittarius. So for you, Mars, Uranus, Algol is in your 6th house, which is your health. So again, sort of like for Taurus, I want you to be careful of accidents. Not the best time to be having probably surgeries. Not the best time probably for dental work. Might be okay for diagnosing things if there's been something going on that is like mysterious and we don't know why you're getting that symptom, because Mars Uranus could be like eureka, like somebody decides to test or do something different that they've never thought about doing, and now, oh my lord, we found something possible. Your energy level might be really super intense and strong, but again, be careful of like throwing out your back or twisting an ankle because you're overdoing it, because it will make you restless and have a lot of energy. And you might just want to run, or you might just want to climb something, but you'll have to be careful with Mars Uranus there. So, I mean, if you regulate your energy well enough, you obviously there's good ways that this can play out too. If you're somebody who's been wanting to exercise more or train, or you need to recover from something, you might find like you get these bursts of will to overcome whatever has been going on in your health. But it can also play out as anxiety, which impacts your health as well, and your guts and everything. So it's a very restless energy. The only thing I can say is if I had it in my 6th house, I would ask myself, is this health issue related to a sense of me feeling angry or restricted in my will or my self-expression in some way? Ask yourself if you're feeling that. And then you might get closer to an answer of how it's playing out physically in your body. And your card is the Empress. So there's someone around you who is very willing to nurture and help you, listen to you. Maybe a therapist or a really good physio or something, doctor. There's somebody very caring and very positive around you to help you through whatever's going on with you, with your health. That's very nice. Capricorn. Mars, Uranus, Algol is in your 5th house, which is creativity and romance. Children. If you've got kids, you might find that they are just extra right now. Extra rambunctious, extra little fights, extra little whiny, I wanted that. Again, accident prone. Maybe they break something by accident. Definitely be careful around, kids and equipment and cars and stuff like that, because like this, energy of just like darting out into the middle of the field, or like jumping off something without thinking about it is very Mars Uranus. If you've got kids, just be careful of that one. Now, otherwise, for your creativity, it might just be through the roof. You know, with your work, you might just be like full of ideas. With if you have hobbies or you're pursuing something like that, you suddenly might have the energy to do a project you haven't in a while. Like you might feel a huge burst of energy. And again, since it's like restless and inventive, when it comes to your creative life, that's probably the best place it could go. In your romantic life, in your dating, not so much. You know, if you're single and dating, and I had Mars, Uranus, Algol coming through, I would be like very wary of now you see me, now you don't, ghosting type of dates, of people that are just extra restless or pushing things to go too quickly. You know, somebody that has like some sort of agenda underneath all of this excitement. I would go very slow if you're single right now and dating anybody new, just to be careful. Now your card is the lust card. There we go. So the passion. She's tapping into source energy and she's laying back and she's fully expressing her full sexuality and creativity in her life. So, I mean, some of you maybe will just get the most amazing freaky love session you've ever had with Mars, Uranus, and the passion card. You know, maybe the best one night you've ever had in your life. I don't know. Others of you, you know, it's going to play out, like I said, with fill yourself with that desire to make something, to do something, and you know, paint the biggest painting you've ever painted, or you know, like it's a go big kind of passionate energy that you can use in your projects. You need a nap after your reading, Capricorn. Okay. Aquarius. Mars, Uranus, Algol is in your 4th house. It's your house, your family, your foundations. Not an easy place. There could be some old issues coming up in the family. That means, you know, anything from somebody suddenly bringing something up that everybody thought we were done talking about this. Sometimes it plays out with your house, literally your physical house. Maybe there's renovations that you're doing. Maybe there's renovations that are going to be beside you and you don't have much choice. Could be a lot of noise around. Yeah, I mean, something sort of might keep you in your house. Like there's so much going on on the level of the home front. I mean, sometimes Mars Uranus could be a jackhammer that's going around, you know, across the road. Somebody's doing something. Sometimes you could be knocking down a wall. Sometimes there could be something that just suddenly breaks. Otherwise, if it's interpersonal with like your home and family, there, you know, I would expect some arguing at home. I would expect somebody or maybe everybody in the house feeling restless and a bit crabby. So maybe you all just need some space. And your card here is the 5 of Swords. So there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah, there's too much, there's too much mental debate and arguing and there's too much friction around the family or the home. So somebody needs to lay down their ego and their sword for everybody to get along better. People need some space. And finally, Pisces. Mars Algol is in your 3rd house, communication, your immediate city, your village, and your siblings. You could have a little friction with your siblings, unfortunately, with that aspect. There could be a little squabbles, little with each other. That could also be happening in your neighborhood. You know, could be immediate neighbors, landlords, you know, just people out and about, just snippy, snappy attitudes, including you. Yeah, sort of feels more like a frustration than anything terrible happening. And Mars Uranus Algol could also sort of like we said for Virgos, um, it can mean an expansion of mind and of how you communicate and how you order your mind. So with Mars Uranus in the third, you could almost expect like a freak flash of insight or a clairvoyant flash or of intuition could hit you. It could be a good thing. And again, because of Algol, there's sort of an awakening to something that you never knew existed. There's a twist in how you look at something because now you have new info. And your card is the Tower. Okay, so just like the 10 of Wands at the beginning, the Tower is similar. It's like enough already. There's somebody, I don't know if it's like your immediate siblings or your immediate neighborhood. There's something where you've had enough. And the Tower is like the rug is pulled and it's been long overdue, so it's not a surprise. So do your best not to feel victimized with it and instead say, okay, this sucks, but I did know this. I did deep down know this. And now you'll put yourself in a position to solve it instead of feeling victimized. It's very important that you do that. Otherwise, this might not happen to you at all. This could be your neighborhood or neighbors, siblings. It could be happening to them. But there's definitely a reckoning when the Tower comes along. So, I expected these readings not to be very easy because this is not a very easy aspect that we're all dealing with right now. And we're seeing it play out personally and on the big stage of life. And so take from it what you will from this chart and decide how best to make the best of it or make the most peace out of it. But for sure, there will be lots of people who do go through drama during this transit, even if you don't. And so you will feel it collectively. And just take care of your nervous system, okay? Just lots of this. Sigh. Hum. Take care of your vagus nerve. Lots of little somatic exercises. Calming your nervous system. And try to just accept what you're feeling. Make some decisions. Take care of your own needs. And we'll see you again at the new moon.